Hi, I'm Sarah from Homespun Childhood. Here I share all things homeschool, literacy, books, and more. Today we're going to jump into resources for an animal-themed year or morning basket. Let's go! So I really like this new DK series, the Find Out books. This is an updated version of their eyewitness books. They still have their eyewitness books and are actually updating all of those, but this is a good fit for that K2 kind of year or independent reading for past that. I like that they are very easily digestible. They have a nice table of contents, and then they are broken up nicely into different categories. There are a variety of text features. We have, sorry, there's gonna be a lot of noise because I'm trying to film this during pancake time because that's the only time I have. Mom life, yo. Okay. So they have a bunch of different text features. We have diagrams, we have little call out boxes, we have pictures, we have data points. It goes into different types of animals, reptiles, amphibians, etc. After we get through those, there's more on invertebrates, insects, types of habitats, homes, adaptations. So really you could use this as a spine for an entire year of curriculum in the K2 kind of years. You could also do this over, the course of 4 to 6 weeks as a unit study. So that is the DK Find Out Animals. You can find links to all these books listed below, and I do have an Amazon affiliate list where I earn a very tiny percentage of anything you purchase from there, but all the books will be linked there. This next book is from a new DK series called The Anthology of Intriguing, and they have a variety of books from this. These books are beautiful. They've got the gold pages, they've got a nice bookmark. They have these beautiful drawings, and each 2-page spread is a different animal. And so I really love this for diving into specific animals, for letting children pick an animal they're interested in. The reading is such that you could do, a page a day during morning basket with younger children or any age child really. And then if you have a fluent reader, they could be reading this and summarizing it and working off of this reading during reading and writing time. And so it's a nice way to pull in the content to our writing and language arts. My only critique about this book is that it does not have an index in the back where you can easily find what animal you want and what page it's on. They do have a glossary and then this visual guide, which that's great for young children. However, for me, I'd like to know what animal is on what page. The next book we're going to look at is this DK Smithsonian Natural History book. This is a beast, y'all. It's really big. We've had this for years, and we pull this out for nature study, for science in general, and it's like all the things, living things. They do have a lot of animals though, and so this is nice if you're kind of doing a broader look at lizards. Oh, look at all the variety of lizards, and then you could go into more detail on a specific variety. So it has beautiful color photographs, lots of information. It has the scientific names of the animals. It has a really nice glossary. It has a really nice index that is broken down in lots of different ways. So this is a great resource to have on hand for just homeschooling in general, all the years. All right, our next book is Animalia, another DK Smithsonian book. This is great for an animal-themed year. You could use this as your spine. In fact, Blossom and Root does use this for their life science year. And it goes into kind of the basics of what is an animal, evolution and extinction, animal history, the animal kingdom, and then we go through invertebrates and vertebrates. And again, just beautiful color photos, lots of information. The last section is an animal science section, and this goes into different things about animals in general. So we have body shape, we have life cycles, movement, feeding, communication, finding a mate, reproduction, parenting, habitats and ecosystems. I kind of wish this section were at the front because this would be kind of a nice thing to do initially, and then as you explore each animal, then you think about their migration patterns, or you think about their movement or their defense strategies and their adaptations in general. So if you're working with a younger student, though, you might just go through all the animals and then touch on those different adaptations and defense strategies and whatnot at the end, and think back on previous ones. So our next book is the National Geographic Wild Animal Atlas for kids. This is a fun book to tie in geography along with your animal studies. It's organized into different continents. And then they have this nice map with animals all over the world, a brief introduction to biomes, and then we begin our different continents. Each continent is laid out the same way, starting with North America, starting with the biomes of that continent, and then a map showing the different biomes and some animals that you can find in North America. I really like that they have this biome feature. It's a nice way to tie in geography with wildlife. And then we move into some different feature areas and animals within that continent. And then we're at the next continent, South America. Again, the biomes with the map of the animals, poison dart frogs, Europe. So you'll notice it's not a whole lot of information for each continent, but it is a nice introduction to biomes and animals and geography. So you could use this either in a geography study and then have that spark interest in animals, or the other way around, where you're using this in an animal study and it's sparking interest in making connections to geography. Next up is Animalium. This is by a Welcome to the Museum series, and it's a controversial book in the homeschool world. Is this actually useful in our homeschool? Is it just beautiful? You know, I think the jury is still out on that. I love these books. I think they're beautiful. We tend to use the pictures in our drawing and nature study, where we'll reference the pictures because they are really well done, and it's much easier for my children and myself to draw a picture from pictures. They do have a nice tree of life that we just saw. They go into invertebrates. There's a little bit of information about each one. I think the illustrations are beautiful. This is like a coffee table book for homeschoolers, right? My son has started reading some of these. He will pick an animal that he's interested in on the picture, find that number, and then find that information over in the text. I like that it's kind of an introduction to footnotes in that way, and it's a great way to kind of use those text features. So we continue to move through different animals. We have reptiles and birds, and that is a wrap on the Animalia book, and we're going to move on to a different category. My next stack of books are fun, interesting books about animals that you could use in a morning basket, that are just kind of random facts all about animals that would be fun to tie in. You can also use these as, jumping off points for different subcategories within an animal year, but they would not work well as a spine, in my opinion. So first up, we have How Do Meerkats Order Pizza? And this is just a cute book with cartoon type stuff, and then going into different animals and about scientists who study them, deep sea mussels, and it's just fun. This is not going to be a super informative book, but it would go really nicely with a year on animals. This is a book that you could hand to a fluent reader and have them read and then kind of report back. This could be a fun way to encourage children to do notebooking. And it's just an overall fun book and could spark creativity for journaling, notebooking, and science writing. Let's switch to the next book. This is another really fun book that would be great for a morning basket. You could also hand this to a fluent reader and have them read and then retell, or make some notes, 2-column notes, whatever. It goes into a variety of symbiotic relationships between animals, and it's broken up into the different kinds of relationships that animals have. And so it gives a nice overview of the different types of relationship: mutualism, communalism, and parasitism, and then it goes into a breakdown of each kind of subcategory of relationships. And so the format of the book is such that you have a cartoon that's playful for the first page of the new relationship. And then when you turn the page, you have facts about that. And so we go through a variety of animal pairs and relationships, doing the playful cartoon part, and then moving into the facts. And I just think this is a really fun book. My son has really enjoyed learning about these different relationships. The cartoons are really fun. It could lead to some fun writing or notebooking, and this is just another great book for your morning basket. It also has a nice glossary in the back with words that you could use for vocabulary, and they have all the definitions. So this is a great pick. I guess. So we're still looking at these interesting kind of animal books that wouldn't work great for a spine. I love Steve Jenkins. He has a whole bunch of books. He's got picture books, and then he's got this big one. So we'll kind of go through all of them briefly. And there's a whole bunch more than this. I just got whatever I could find on eBay. And so they're just great. They're nice that you could do in one sitting. They're interesting. My kids love these little comparison features on the side. They are something that it's just kind of fun to flip through. Never Smile at a Monkey is another similar one. It has, just different animals on each page, a little bit about the animal, and these are great to pull into morning baskets. We also have Sisters and Brothers here about animal relationships. The last book I have by Steve Jenkins is this animal book. And so if you were going to get one of his books, this would be the one to get because it has a lot of the same information. It's just all collected into one big book. And so this is another great one we could include in a morning basket. You could probably use this one more as a spine than some of the other ones I've shared. It does break the animals down into groups and then goes through senses and predators, etc. The pictures are just fantastic. There's a little bit of text on each page. This is another good one that you could use to look at when you're doing your own drawing or notebooking or watercoloring. It's another one we could use for shared reading where you're trading it on and off with a fluent reader. And this is a great one too for non-readers. They can, peruse the pictures and, read by looking at the pictures and talk about what they see. So, these types of books are great for a wide range of ages because each kid can really get something different out of it. We also go into lots of different adaptations and animal science here, going through different features of the different animals, like defense mechanisms and predator-prey relationships and all their different adaptations. So whenever we're learning about animals or doing, some kind of animal study, it's important to think about the different relationships that animals have and their different features that they have developed over time. This book also has a really nice kind of section at the end about making books and the art behind Steve Jenkins' books. So another great one to include. Next, we have the Animal Awards book. This is a book that I think I picked up from one of those book outlet things online. I just thought it looked interesting and another morning basket type book to pull in. It does have features on special animals and, why they're getting an award. So what makes them kind of unique or special. And so this one, my kids have really enjoyed flipping through and the pictures are fun and it's just been another good addition for our morning basket. The next set here are the Big Book of, and we have Beast, the Ocean, and Birds, and these are another fun morning basket type book to pull in. They have fun pictures. They're not necessarily accurate. I know some folks have been frustrated by the eyes in particular on some of the pictures here, but my kids think they're fun and they do have little tidbits of information. So this is another one you could read, a page a day. You could let your child flip to a particular animal. And they're just something fun to pull in. The Big Book of Blue we used for an ocean study. We used this alongside some other books and just kind of went back and forth between the two of them. We also did a full unit study on birds one month, and this was a great resource for that unit study. And so that finishes out this category of interesting books to include, but not necessarily great spines. Our next category will be curriculum and resources. All right, y'all, the next type of books we have here for our animal themed unit or year are curricula or guides, what have you. So let's go through these. This first one that I have here is My Outdoor Classroom. This is by Rooted in Language, and it's actually part of their kindergarten curricula. However, you could adapt this for lots of different ages, especially if you were going to do this as like a month-long theme. So we have our table of contents here with each of their different weeks, book lists, supplemental books, more and more and more. This uses the Burgess Animal Book for Children as the spine, and so if that's something that your family enjoys, this is a really great resource to pull in. And then the way this is organized is each page is a week. So this is a pared down curricula if you are comparing it to some of their older grades. But each week has a different kind of animal science theme, and then an animal that they're talking about. And so here we have prey adaptations, and then we're talking about rabbits and hare. So you could go through and use the different materials to teach that animal science aspect, and or you could teach about that specific animal that week. So if you have a child who's really into animals, this is a nice kind of way to focus that learning throughout the year. Each lesson is organized in the same format. Let's flip through to another one down here. Cat, tracks, and scat. We have our nature lore. So this is pulling from that Burgess Animal Book. We have the nature lore that's pulling from that Burgess Animal Book. We have nature study. This one is pulling in a dramatic play activity, and these are in a separate book. We have a nature notebooking activity, and then we have some optional lesson enhancements and supports. So here's why I like this type of a resource. Yes, we could go on Pinterest and figure out all these things. This already has it done for you, and it's consistent in terms of quality. And I like that they include a variety of nonfiction books like the DK Animal Book, or the Anthology of Intriguing Animals, as well as some living books. So we have a whole bunch of things down here, and then we have some websites and some photographs to go along with this. So this is just a really easy open and go way to have a really specific animal focus. You could pull this into your morning basket very easily. They also have videos that go along with it. Next up, we have the Wonders of the Animal Kingdom curriculum. This is year 3 of Blossom and Root. And so in front of me here, I have the parent guide for nature study, and then I have the parent guide, the integrated labs, and main parent guide. So we have our table of contents here broken up into the typical Blossom and Root wonders. This kind of goes through the animal kingdom, evolution and extinction, history of animal life, and then it starts from the very beginning and kind of blossoms out. So this is a very comprehensive approach to teaching about the animal kingdom. We have our book lists here. Lots and lots of book resources for you. And then we go into the lessons. The lesson formats are the same from lesson to lesson. Wonder 1 here is the animal kingdom. I like that we have the big picture ideas and then the smaller ideas. I like to go ahead and highlight key vocabulary for us. We have different things we're focusing on. We have the different approaches, and so Blossom and Root, they do a really nice job of breaking this up into different kind of approaches for homeschooling. So you could pick which ones work for you. You don't have to do all of them. So we have the minimalist approach, and that's always going to be pulling from the DK Smithsonian Animal Book that I showed earlier. And then we have some additional morning basket folks, some YouTube videos, and then the lab activities. We have different lab activities. We have the outdoor learners, the table crowd, the arts and crafts, and then student notebook type things. And so we have a nice, what to do type thing here. Some of them include these, photograph challenges. We have the different activities here. These are from the lab guide. I had this printed from Hard Copy HQ, which is a partner with Blossom and Root. And so they will integrate the lab guide and the science guide together for you, so you don't have to pull from multiple books. There is a lot of information here. So if you are working with younger children or children who might not be as interested in this material, you can definitely pare this down. You do not have to go through all of this. However, I find that this is kind of nice where you can differentiate it and make it more challenging for an older student, or, a little bit more simple for a younger student. And also just based on your homeschool style. Okay, so we go through all these different things. Turtles, tortoises, crocodiles. So, one of the things that we had considered doing when we were starting this was pairing this material with the correlating lessons from here, if there were that. However, my kids have not really wanted to do a full on animal study this year, and so we might circle back to that in another year. But I have really enjoyed having this as a resource. I think there's just a lot of great information here. The nature study that goes with it are just a variety of activities you can do related to Animal Kingdom. And so you can do these, when they match up with here. You could also just pick them out based off of, what you were going to be doing that afternoon. The next guide that I have is Real Science Odyssey Life. I really like combining Real Science Odyssey with Blossom and Root. I feel like they both complement each other well. We don't end up doing every lesson from one and every lesson from the other. I really just use them as guides and kind of based off of the flow of our week and what my kids are into. So let's look at this really quickly. So the Real Science Odyssey tends to be a little bit more traditional lab type work. In the beginning of the book, they give us what they call the big idea and the small stuff. And so each lesson in this book, these are kind of your objectives or what you're aiming to teach. And so you can easily take these sentences and pull these into your writing, especially if you're using a TWR, the Writing Revolution approach. These are really easy to incorporate into sentence expansion activities, all that kind of stuff. So I like that they have those. I do wish that these were also included in the section for that lesson. Otherwise, you have to kind of flip back and forth. There is a very extensive materials list. I highly recommend if you're going to do one of the Real Science Odyssey programs in its entirety that you prep all of this stuff in advance, because I have found that I do not have them and cannot get things in time. So we have a suggested weekly schedule here. We have some suggested reading, website suggestions about keeping a science journal, and then we move into the labs. And so you'll see here I have my post-it notes of what the kind of big ideas were and some of the vocabulary, because it's not included right here. And so I wish that were there. One of the things I do like, I'll just move this out of the way, about Real Science Odyssey is that each lesson includes this student notebook page. And so this is a really easy way to incorporate language arts and reading skills into science content areas and the other way around. I like to pull the vocabulary out of here. We can work on summarizing these. You know, we can do 2-column notes from this, KWO if you do IWE writing. That was a lot of acronyms thrown at you. And then they have the labs. And so each lab is set up the same way. We have the black part, what you're supposed to read to the student. We have the procedures, we have hints, we have possible answers, and then we have these lab sheets. And so my students, my kids, have enjoyed doing these lab sheets. We kind of fill them in together, but it feels really sciencey for them to do that. If your kids don't like doing that, then you don't have to do it, right? We can adapt this. And then there's another lab for the same topic, and then we move on to the next lesson. And so it's all set up the same way. And this is really an extensive program. You could use this for, you know, 2nd grade through 5th, 6th grade, really, I think. And, you know, you could pair this with other programs. You don't have to use it in its entirety. Maybe you're using Exploring Nature with Children because you have a younger child, and then you want to kind of figure out ways to incorporate an older child into that program. You could use this type of a program to do that. You know, if it's a week about worms, for example, you could dive into here and find, you know, the worm activity. This program has the human body kind of anatomy stuff in here. So if you're looking for an anatomy type program, this is nice for the, you know, middle elementary type years, because we go into skeleton systems, etc. We talk about mammals, birds, all of that. In the back, they have a glossary that has vocabulary related to the different lessons. Again, I wish these were also bolded and like highlighted and called out in the lessons itself. Like, these are the key vocabulary you should teach. However, you can typically figure out which words go with each lesson because they're going to be in the notebooking page here. Arachnids. We come down here and find arachnid right here. Okay, so you can find them that way. The last guide I'm going to show you is not really a curricula, but this is a really fun resource if you are into nature journaling, or if you want to become into nature journaling, or if your children are doing notebooking related to this animal unit or animal year, because it goes through how to draw all these different elements of animals. And so I feel like I'm learning how to draw alongside my children, and so this has been really nice for me to reference and kind of practice on myself. and then, share, some of these with them. Here's a ladybug example, right? It's going into the different steps to drawing a ladybug and, talking about painting it. We go into snakes and ducks and, mammals and bears and all these things. So this is just a beautiful resource. And that if you're wanting to learn more about watercoloring and drawing, that I highly recommend. All right, my last set of books are literature kind of based. So I really like to integrate things across all the different, content areas. And these are some fun ways to tie in animals with our literature. So let's just go through a couple of these. The first two books I have here are different Aesop stories. These are our two favorite. We also have a couple of other ones. However, I'm partial to these, and so are my kids. We have The Fabled Life of Aesop, which my kids really liked because it walked through like the story of Aesop. And then it goes into different fables. It has nice illustrations. They're typically about a page long. Some of them are 2 pages. So we've been reading these. And then a lot of times we'll read multiple versions of the same fable. And so I love Jerry Pickney's work. He is just a great illustrator. And so we have his fable book. And so it has a nice table of contents here where you can easily find all the different fables. We have an introduction, and then we go into the different fables. And each fable, again, is pretty short. And it just has beautiful illustrations. If you're not familiar with Jerry Pickney, he was an African-American writer and illustrator and really brings a lot of diversity to classic stories and fairy tales, and is just a wonderful illustrator in general. And so we really love including these illustrations. Okay, the next 2 books I have are poetry books. So this is The Song of the Wild, a first book of animals, and it's broken down into different kind of features. And you could either read through this, a poem a day, or if you are going through and doing a animal each week, you could find the corresponding animal in here if there is one, which I think there are for many of the animals. And so this is just, a quick and easy way to bring in poetry, some beautiful pictures, and, just kind of mix things up. The last book I have today is this massive, heavy coffee table book, a animal poem for every day of the year. So this is related to a nature poem, I think, for every day of the year. There's another one like this. And essentially there is a poem for every day of the year. And they tend to kind of match up with the seasons. So for example, January, we have a lot of snowy type pictures, penguins, whatnot. And they do kind of group animals together. So we have cats together, and then tigers in the cat family. The beginning of the month has this nice feature here where there is the name of the poem and the poet for each day of the month. Groundhog Day on the 2nd, it's appropriate. If we move into the spring and the summer, we have, more birds and kind of warmer weather, I guess, type animals. And so we have enjoyed reading this. My son has actually been reading these poems, and so that's kind of a nice way for him to start off our morning basket time. So these are fun. You could read these every day. You could also find the corresponding animal if you're doing a specific animal. There's lots of different ways to use this. You don't have to read a poem every day. You don't have to, follow the day of what the poem is, right? You could read a January poem in May. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Okay, the last little bit I'm adding on here at the end are some non-book related resources. And so I'm going to pull these aside, and this is just something that we do to try to incorporate play and reenactment, I guess, into our learning. So let's scoot some of these aside. And we'll start with toy animals. So several different options for these. These Safari LTD tubes are a really great cost-effective way to include a variety of different animals. So they have all these different themes: river, rainforest, endangered species. There's a whole bunch. And essentially they're just these tiny little animals. right, that you could include in some sensory play. They really get stuck in here and that drives me crazy. That you could include in sensory play. The details are pretty good. They're not amazing, but for the price, I think it's like, well, inflation, I think maybe it's $13 or $14 a tube now, but you can probably find them on eBay cheaper. They're pretty good. So those are fun. If you are wanting like a step up from these type of animals, we have really enjoyed the Schleck animals. These are also heavy duty plastic, like very sturdy plastic, and they claim to be hand painted. I'm not sure if that's actually true, but these have lasted forever. We have a whole variety of these and we have slowly collected over the years. And so you can, you know, incorporate these into a lot of different play. My kids particularly love the mama and baby animals. They are just really cute. And so these stand up nicely. These do well in snow and water and all the different things, mud, like they clean off really well. And so these are pretty like indestructible. Another version would be the wooden animals. Most of ours are from sorry y'all. This one is Holzinger. Lots of different wood animal brands, and I don't know, personally I just love these, but they are much more pricey in comparison to the Schleck animals and definitely in comparison to the tube animals. And these are not as sturdy, right? You can't use these in sensory play really, unless it's, you know, like a pom-pom or a rice type thing, not wet sensory. So those are just some toy ideas you can add in. A couple of other options we added this year are these postcard boxes. I particularly like this one. This is Animals of the World, and it's broken down into the different continents. And these are just fun to display, or if you're doing a, you know, Montessori continent kind of box or whatever, you know, you can put these in there. And they're just fun to add in. So these are North America. They have a little bit of information on the back about each one. So they go through all the different continents for that, except for, yeah, they do. So they have them like grouped together. We have South America and Antarctica. But they're just beautiful. We'll zoom in. But these are great to display, you know, on a learning shelf or put into a box or use for drawing, that kind of thing. I will have all of these linked for you. We also have this animal box. These are organized by illustrator and not by animal type, but you could easily go and change those organizations if you wanted. But just some more picture cards to include if you're learning about a particular animal, especially if you're having a child draw them. It's nice to have different types of drawings to look at, so different styles. You could also do like an artist study with these. That would be a fun thing to do. All right, the last thing that I have, get that put away, are the Professor Noggin boxes. They have redone these and now they include real life pictures. So if that is your thing, then keep that in mind. If you, however, prefer the drawings, you'll need to look a little bit more carefully for those and read your eBay descriptions. I personally like the drawing ones. And so these are like little question games. They come with a dice, and then they have kind of the easy versus the hard idea here. And then each picture, so this is the bird box, you would roll the die, hummingbirds, and then you would answer, okay, one, let's see, easy, one, hummingbirds are the smallest birds in the world, true or false? Just fun little activity to pull into a morning basket or a kind of getting ready to start the day. Here's another example, the Wildlife of North America one. So just more ways to include some visual stuff and some little trivia games. So that is a wrap on my animal theme resources. So I hope you found this useful and found some things that you could include in an animal type study. All of these books will be linked in my description below, and you can find them in my Amazon store as well. Thanks, everyone.